Well, let's get started here. I want to make sure we leave a lot of time for questions and open discussion if that's necessary. So, hello, welcome. And today we are talking about Colorado Gives Day and specifically the checklist for your success. So, what are the reminders? What have we gone over in all of these webinars this season? And what should be top of mind for you as you're doing your last planning before November 1st kicks off Colorado Gives Day? So, let's jump in. All right, so this is the final webinar in our Colorado Gives Day 2025 series. And so you should know me by now, but if you don't, and if this is your first one, thank you for coming. And there's still time. My name is Jordan. I'm the Nonprofit Success Manager for coloradogives.org. And I wanted to pause here just to acknowledge everyone that is on this call and working hard in our wonderful state to bring charity to life and to bring resources and life-saving things to animals, humans, everybody in our state. So thank you. We see the long hours you're putting in. We see the countless ways you're caring for your communities. And we're just profoundly grateful for you trusting us to be part of your story and help lift you up. And we share the same goals as you, a Colorado where everyone is thriving, where nonprofits are connected with resources and have the capacity, and that we are both in partnership and independently changing lives. So thank you all for being here. And with deep appreciation, this is coming from the entire Colorado Gives Foundation team. Okay, for today, we are talking about nonprofit checks and reminders. So we are really just going to be looking at all the topics we covered, all the pointers, and then we're going to take a look and do some quick demos around strategy and the tools that we've gone over this year for success. And then I've hopefully left us a good amount of time so we have open discussion and Zoom chat questions. As a reminder, this webinar is being recorded just like all of our other ones, and the recording and the slide deck are sent to you guys after this webinar is completed. Give us 1 to 3 days at most. These webinars and the slide deck are also available on the nonprofit resources page in our webinar library. We'll ask you to please stay on mute just because of the large crowd for today. And like I said, we'll be chatting in the Zoom. So please, if you want to, take part there. A reminder too that if you are needing help, generosity is high, volume is high, people are excited, but we have a full customer support team that we want you to be emailing as a first point of contact. I oversee the customer support team, so if anything needs to be escalated or directed to me for us to connect or meet, that always is happening throughout the week. And then, of course, for the recording disclaimer, all of this information here is not exposing any private data. And so rest assured that everything you're seeing here is an example or not exposing any information that you're not supposed to be seeing. All right, so a quick icebreaker. I wanted to warm up today and learn, what was your first or your most influential job in your youth? It could be funny, it could be serious, it could be what motivated you to work at your nonprofit today. Um, I'd love to just learn a little bit more about all those special things that happen in your youth that make you who you are today. My example is freshman year of college. I was an AmeriCorps environmental education intern. It was amazing at Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico. That's where I established my love for being out here. And so I'd love to see in the chat what everybody else has done in the past that has inspired them. Let me open up the chat here. Oh, daycare provider, paper route. Yes. 4-H club. I'm a 4-H'er. Love that. Event planner for a church's youth group. Lifeguard at a pool, babysitter. classic. Summer camp, taking care of horses. I see you, Sabrina. I did that too. Wow, these are so great. Volunteered at a Swedish hospital. All right, Darla. This is amazing. So I think, of course, I ask this because it makes me smile and I hope it makes you smile too. But I think there's a lot of shared experiences that we have that make us who we are today and also make us interested in charity and helping people and animals and things. And so I just wanted to say thanks. And I think y'all are great people. And thanks for being here today. If you're interested in what this photo is, it's the Hall of the White Giant. That's a huge formation in Carlsbad Caverns. All right, let's get to the actual content. Thank you guys for participating. I hope that warmed you up and put a smile on your face. So the first thing I did in preparing for today's webinar is take a look back at everything that we covered. And so one new thing that we are doing this year, after we capture this live webinar and put it on YouTube, we are actually breaking down each of the topics in each of the webinars. So that's going to be in the comments of all of these YouTube webinars. And so that allows you to go directly to the details or information that we talked about without necessarily having to go through the entire webinar. So webinar 1 was really for the newbies, the folks that haven't participated it before or needed a refresher. And so we, of course, talked about the origins of Colorado Gives Day, about those record-breaking numbers that you saw in some of my other webinars. If you need help convincing your board or staff or team why you should be participating as a nonprofit, we go through some great talking points to bring to the table to encourage your team to lean in more this year. Of course, we go through the basics of creating and updating your organization page. So this is a great place to start. If you are like, oh gosh, I still haven't updated my organization page yet, someone's going to find it. The content's from 2022. You can update that organization page whenever you want, as frequently as you want, but you're right, it is time to update that, and this guides you through how to do that. We also talk about campaign best practices, and we touch on, or start to touch on, the fundraising tools that can be really impactful for your campaign. So if you are just starting out, I really encourage you, hop to this slide or hop to the webinar in YouTube and go to the places that you need a refresher on. Maybe you weren't able to attend in real time, or maybe there's a lot of stuff going on. So maybe you just need a quick refresher. We did a lot in webinar 2. So that one's a big one. So if you are a little bit past the basics and really looking to up your strategy, expand your campaign, potentially reach new donors and engage the retained one more effectively, this is the webinar for you to take a look at. So we go over some September actions, which they can be applied to October too. If you haven't done them yet in September, that's okay. We talk about some of the practical things on the website. Colorado Gives is built to make donating as close to 100% going back to your nonprofit as possible. And that's what we call the effective fee rate. You can also set up Colorado state tax credits on the platform. And then we do touch on disbursements, how it works, what's the timeline. And as we go down here, we talk again about the fundraiser page in a little more detail. So what does that copy look like? What should the feel of your campaign be? There are some tricks to the platform, like marketing referral codes. So while that sounds big and scary, it's just adding a little piece to the end of your Colorado Gives referral code to better track where those donors are coming from as you share the link. We go into great detail during this webinar, and we'll touch on it today, about the Colorado Gives Day search. So there are actions you can take to make your organization page more searchable. Because the biggest volume of new donors, of course, is coming during Colorado Gives Day. And so you want to be accessible to those who might find you. We talk about fundraising. So there are a lot of options for peer-to-peer fundraising, but as most basic and simple form, it's an individual connecting a fundraiser page to your organization and raising funds on your behalf. Maybe because they can't give, or maybe because they just love you that much, they have to shout it from the mountaintops. So if that's something that you want to lean into this year, that is a great place to start. Board fundraising, something I get asked a lot. What are the different ways we can engage our board for Colorado Gives Day? And then, of course, we chat about embeddable donation forms, matching grants, and we go through some Q&A. So that's a really big one. That's an important one if you want a little bit more details on everything you should be clicking or considering clicking for Colorado Gives Day this year. Webinar 3 and 4 are related to the toolkit specifically. So again, just going through these resources because it's a lot, and making sure you feel comfortable with how you can use them, how you can leverage Canva, and other things. And so if you need a little bit more just guidance or haven't yet explored the toolkit, this is a great place to start. If you're a little confused about Canva and the free pro account that you get as a nonprofit, head to the Canva tutorial. And so these are all subjects that'll help you to build out your campaign using the toolkit. And similarly, webinar 4 that we did in September is around the toolkit and specifically around the Colorado Gives Day statewide advertising plan. Also, a lot of examples of seeing the toolkit in action. So what it looked like last year. Of course, some best practices and inspiration, as well as some news and storytelling from our CBS anchor, which was really exciting. Last one, and I'll acknowledge here for this one, this was one that was recorded because we had an outage live. So if this wasn't one that you went back and looked at, take some time to look at the prizes webinar. This was the one we did the first week of October. And so we really get into it. The size categories, the $1 million incentive, all of the $100,000 prizes on December 2nd, leaderboards, power hours, how you can leverage the $250,000 in recurring gift matches. This is all available for you. We had to do 2 columns here. So we also talk about how to identify monthly donors because they might be a new bucket of folks that you want to reach out to. The business challenge is potentially a big part of your strategy. If you have local business partners or people willing to step up in an easy way for Colorado Gives Day. There is a lot going on, and Southwest is one of our great sponsors that is giving away tickets, both for the nonprofit kickoff call and on Colorado Gives Day, December 9th. So all that to say, I want to make sure you guys know that a lot of this was covered and you can really easily, quickly reference it. You don't have to go through hours of webinars, although I'm sure you love hearing hours of my voice. But really, I want to make sure this is efficient for you as you guys are picking and choosing what your strategy is. So I want to pause here. Were there any practical or tactical questions about the webinars and in the Zoom, Katie?
Not so far.
Okay, awesome. All right, so for new and returning nonprofits, we're going to go through all the things that I feel bubble up and are the most important to take action on. That doesn't mean it's the most important for your campaign or your goals. So I just want to acknowledge that this universally is what I think you should focus on, but you may have specific or intentional goals for your campaigns outside of what I'm mentioning. All right, so let's first get the serious stuff out of the way. So whether you're new or a returning nonprofit, it's always good to remind you what actions you can and shouldn't take on coloradogives.org. So the first one there is really just a reminder that during Colorado Gives Day and year-round, you as a nonprofit can't offer goods and services in exchange for a gift on coloradogives.org. And that's because it's a 100% tax-deductible gift. As a reminder, each of these donors are getting that tax-deductible receipt with that information, so you don't have to worry about that piece. But especially during all the prizes and incentives that are going on, I wanted to remind folks that event tickets, raffles, auctions, or even just language that ties a donation on Colorado Gives to a prize or reward that your nonprofit is offering um, is going to confuse the donor at the end of the day. Um, and it's also, of course, against our terms of use. So we do ask that you're leveraging all of the wonderful prizes that we are putting forth to incentivize your donors. And if you do have your own unique prizes, make sure to check with your legal counsel on how to present those to the public. All right. Next one, no sending communications promoting Colorado Gives Day or Colorado Gives, etc., without pointing donors to a Colorado Gives page to donate. And so what I really mean by that is we've seen either by mistake or intentional over the years that some nonprofits are talking about Colorado Gives Day in their emails or social media, but then they're pointing people to a donor perfect form or a PayPal link. And while maybe year round that's effective, it's actually very challenging for the donor to understand that if they're using that link and you're talking about Colorado Gives Day, it's not necessarily going through the platform and their donation isn't boosted if it's not going through coloradogives.org. So the idea here is that when you're talking about Colorado Gives Day or coloradogives.org, if you're asking folks to give or take action, ideally you're sending them to a link to donate on coloradogives.org. And then this is just another reminder. I know we've mentioned it in the past, but we did refresh all of the logos this year, all of your Colorado Gives Day logos. And so if you have outdated logos on anything really, marketing materials or your website, you can take a quick peek in the toolkit and we have the new ones available. There's no dates on these, so you won't have to keep refreshing them year over year. And this is just a reminder for all fundraising and all giving. So in the spirit of generosity, we're requesting that you guys are spreading joy and inspiration for Colorado Gives Day. So we know that there's friendly competition between nonprofits with prize incentives. And we're just asking that the statewide movement remains a safe place of support and love for charity. And with that, I just want to say, if you guys see something, say something. I think I got that off a Metro sign. I'm going to be honest, but it's the truth. If you guys have something to report, or a donor, or fundraiser is not acting as expected, let us know. We can troubleshoot. We can help. We have additional access to some things that you guys don't. So let us know what's going on if you do see something that's not joyful and positive. All right, let's go through some reminders. So for new nonprofits, enrolling early. So if you haven't enrolled yet, please click that button because it can take you 1, 2, 3 weeks to make sure that everything is updated. Maybe you don't have your Secretary of State registration yet. And we want it to go live, ideally, before or on November 1st. November 1st is a Saturday, so just keep that in mind. And so your goal is to get your organization page live or updated by or before November 1st. And that, of course, is going to get you the full benefits of Colorado Gives Day. The other thing just to mention about timelines, we don't necessarily have a cutoff this year for pages to go live, except that if it's not going live by December 8th, so if your organization page isn't live and able to be searched on Colorado Gives and able to be donated to by December 8th, we aren't going to be able to stick it in the leaderboards or have you be eligible for the prizes that happen on December 9th. You'll still be in there, and if you make it live on December 9th, great. So just a heads up there and an encouragement that we are here to help. So please reach out to our support team if you need some additional guidance on enrolling or updating your page. I have to mention it here, but it's important, both to new and returning nonprofits. Check and make sure your to-do list is updated so that you can be accepting donations. And of course, this means that you're a registered 501c3, you're in good standing with the Colorado Secretary of State, as well as registered. You have an active checking account, so you need a checking account so we can send you that money. And just a heads up that without completing all those to-dos, you can't receive donations. That your page won't allow you to. So if you're stuck, raise a hand now and let our support team know. I also wanted to remind you guys to test your page. I often talk to nonprofits and they're not sure what's happening or if their page is live. Test it. See what a donor is going to experience. Click that donate button. It'll tell you right away if your page is not for some reason accepting donations. And it also gives you the opportunity to experience what your donor is going to experience. Another big thing to consider, and I hear it all the time as far as worry or interest in how frequently you should be communicating. And at the end of the day, you should be communicating consistently. Um, so I always hear, we sent an email on November 1st and December 9th. Why didn't people give? Because donors, and we know this, donors need to hear it more than twice. They need you to celebrate milestones with them, share impact stories, promote prizes, remind them over and over again that their gift is fueling this statewide movement. And we use that because it's so important to donors. This statewide movement is the top thing that they are interested in when they're participating in Colorado Gives Day. And the other thing to mention is if you're not talking to your supporters actively, some other nonprofit is, not just for Colorado Gives Day, but probably, but also for end of year too. And so while it may seem foreign to lean in and have more frequent social media and emails, this is the time. And then, of course, making your message about the donor. That's a big one. And I know the default is always to talk about programs and structure and need, but in the reality, it's about showing how donors create the impact. So the winning equation for any of your copy or appeals is in a simplistic form, donor plus impact. That's going to equal the gift. What's not going to equal the gift is you talking to the donor about how awesome your nonprofit or your staff is. That is not going to lead to giving. So just as we all kind of become more conscious of how important words are, how important transparency is, think about the message that you're actually sending to donors in your copy. Okay, a reminder here because of course you're going to get some money during and after Colorado Gives Day. So let's chat quickly about the disbursement schedule. So the disbursements year round on Colorado Gives are monthly. They batch all of the money that you raised from the previous month and they send it out within 15 business days of the following month. For Colorado Gives Day, we do include an additional disbursement, and that's to get the money to you faster before the new year. So donations made in November, they're dispersed December 19th. Donations made in December related to Colorado Gives Day, so donations between December 1st and Gives Day, which is the 9th this year, plus any of the prizes that you won, you're also getting that disbursement by or before December 31st. So in December, expect 2 disbursements. Donations made in December after December 9th, so unrelated to Colorado Gives Day, they will be dispersed by January 22nd or before. And so hopefully that gives you a good feel for when to expect those contributions to show up in your reports, as well as in your bank account. And just a reminder, friends, that all donations made online on Colorado Gives from November 1st to December 9th, they count towards Colorado Gives Day, the incentive calculation and all the prizes. Exciting stuff. We have talked about and done some webinars on the toolkit, but wanted to make sure that you guys were taking a look at it. So the marketing and advertising toolkit is smack in the middle of the nonprofit resources page. So Katie, if you're able to, or maybe you have already, go ahead and drop that nonprofit resources page link in the chat for us. We've gone over the toolkit, but just rest assured that it has the images, the templates, the copy that you need to build out your campaign. Um, we are going to go over the calendar, which also has a checklist in it today. But this is a great way, especially during November and December, to see what's going on, to see what emails we are sending, and when you might send some emails. And then the last thing I'll remind you guys is that um, we need you to submit your events. Are you having any events from November 1st through December 9th that you can associate with Colorado Gives and your online fundraising? We want to know about it. So if you haven't yet, please let us know about your events. And that's because we talk frequently to the media, especially during this time of year. And so this year, we want to more formally update them about what's happening around Colorado connected to Colorado Gives Day. Now, again, if you haven't attended the prize webinar, please do. But wanted to make sure that everybody knew that on the nonprofit resources page, you also have access to all of the prize information. So we have 100K in First Bank prizes, which includes power hours on December 9th and leaderboards, as well as First Bank trivia. We are offering 250K in new recurring matches. So if anybody is setting up a new recurring match connected to your organization, we're matching the first $100 of that new donation. So pretty exciting and a great platform for you to start asking people to set up those monthly gifts, because that's what's going to sustain you long term. Of course, Southwest is showing up with some tickets. And again, they're showing up with those tickets for November 3rd for our kickoff call, and then again for donors on December 9th. And then no one can forget, and no one should forget, the incentive fund. So while you may be focusing on other specific prizes, this is a universal message. All donations on Colorado Gives are boosted or amplified by the $1 Million Incentive Fund. I wanted to make sure to link the prize webinar here in case you hadn't taken a look at it yet. That's an important one. Hopefully it helps you kind of settle in and figure out which one you're going to choose or which prizes you might choose to focus on. All right. So wanted to remind you again, just one more time before the close of October, that our merch store is open. And maybe your nonprofit doesn't have the funds to purchase a bunch of Colorado Gives gear this year, but this was a donor requested thing. So donors want this gear. So if this is something that you want to offer your donors prior to Colorado Gives Day or in the first time period before you really kick off your campaign, this is the time to do it, because unfortunately it will close October 31st. So just a reminder that totally get it. Maybe you don't need 6 more sweatshirts yourself with coloradogives.org. But we brought this back because donors were so thrilled and excited. They wanted to wear that movement on them. All righty, I've been talking about it a lot, but I hope everybody is RSVP'd for the November 3rd kickoff. It's starting at 10 to 10:30, so really short but fun kickoff call. So of course, we want you to get energized for Colorado Gives Day, and there's going to be some performances from local talent. We have a really exciting announcement to make about a social media movement and opportunity to boost your campaign. And then, of course, to get everybody here live and present, we also want to give away 10 pairs of Southwest Airlines tickets. So that's not one, that's 2. That's you and your hubby or you and your partner can go to Hawaii. So either way, we'd love to see you there. Again, this is to celebrate you guys. And so we hope we will. Katie, if you haven't already, I know you're fast, but go ahead and drop that RSVP link in the Zoom URL, or excuse me, Zoom chat. All right. So quick tips for updating your organization page. And as we know, I go into much greater detail in that first webinar. But your org page, the copy on it matters. So updating your about section with that you or donor focused language. You want it to be short, you want it to be succinct for mobile donors and for desktop. Streamline your mission. So there's an area on your organization page that talks about your mission. You can say it in 1 or 2 sentences, and that will be just enough for the donor to make that transaction and be familiar. And then the last thing I'll say is that there is an area for background statement copy. I would say hide it. Don't spend your time working on your background statement. That is something that you can share with your donors after the transaction happens. And so I'll show you what this all looks like on the organization page too. But there's a couple areas of copy that we want you to focus on and edit for folks that are landing on your page. That logo and that big banner image, the visuals, and the complementary colors on your organization page, they can be updated. And so I'll show you how that can happen. And again, it's just really to reflect the same branding that a donor would be familiar with and that is on your website. Check out your settings. I know it's not the most exciting part of the organization page, but your settings has different search parameters that can make you more discoverable, as well as some other features and settings that you may want to update. So just a reminder there, head to your settings because there's a lot in there to edit and update your campaign. The number one way right now that people are driving donors to give on coloradogives.org while the campaign is happening is they're sharing their URL to their organization page, which is great. That's how the majority of donors are getting to give to your nonprofit. There's a secondary option, which we covered in these webinars, and it's a more direct option. So just a reminder here that you can copy a direct link to donate, and I'll show you where that is, and that gets them straight to a donation form for your organization on Colorado Gives. So that might be a better option for your email marketing and your social media. Do not send your supporters to the general coloradogives.org search. I think we can probably, understand why, but it's important to say you don't want to just send them off into the woods to try and find you. You want to send them as directly as possible so that they can take the action seamlessly. Let us do the job of bringing new donors to the table, leveraging our media partners, and getting excitement. Your focus should be on directing people to give as streamlined as possible. And then last thing I'll mention here is that we have a checkout flow that includes the donation form, the thank you page, as well as the receipt. And I encourage you all, please take a moment to update that. That's your opportunity to make this experience, this donation, as custom as possible for a donor during the Colorado Gives Day timeframe. All right, we'll go through a couple more slides, then I'm going to pause for a demo and some questions if there are questions. Your organization page has real-time reporting, and I consider it a superpower. You do not have to wait for that data. You do not have to go and have a challenging time finding last year's data. It's all built in for you. And so some of the things that are top of mind for me as far as like leveraging the all donations report, which is all of your data, who donated in the last 3 years and who didn't? Who are you missing from your larger audience that wasn't showing up for Colorado Gives Day? There are people donating multiple times during this time frame. So who are those people? Do they get an extra shout out? What do they get in addition to just being amazing donors? When did they donate? That matters too. So for example, you may have those type A people that November 1st, that's when they want to give. They want to get it out of the way so that they know that they've participated and given to you for Colorado Gives Day. So take notice to when people are donating or based on what communication you sent last year. Another great one to look at is what payment method are these people using? Your donors from last year had the ability to select from credit card, bank account, PayPal, Apple Pay, Google Pay, as well as IRA, donor advised fund, wire, and then externally, they can also donate with stock. And so these are a lot of different ways, methods of giving, and that might change the way you talk to certain donors. Did they donate on a mobile or desktop? This is all data that's available in your donations report. Was it tied to an event or holiday? So oftentimes you can look back on last year and say, oh, yeah, we did have that gala. We should have asked those people to show up and give, or we should have asked them to XYZ. So take a look at the context of why and when people are giving and what it might be tied to. The other holiday that, of course, comes to mind is Giving Tuesday. So we've talked a lot about how much we've seen Giving Tuesday grow. And I think that's because of your efforts and also because the general awareness of Giving Tuesday, of community giving, of giving online, it's becoming more and more popularized. So focus on Giving Tuesday, drive some messaging during that day. So the long and the short of it is you have access to not only all of your donation data, you can see any recurring donations set up or canceled. You can see offline donations. So if you want to keep track of any of your offline donations, they can be uploaded. And then, of course, retention. We want everybody to take a few moments to look at that retention report. Number one driver of more successful campaigns is more people coming back. So that retention report is going to tell you a lot and hopefully indicate some actions. So thinking about location, we have the donor data on that. Amount, frequency, the method of giving, the reason they gave, or the campaign type. What can you take from that data to inform how you're talking to them this year? The other thing, I didn't include it. I should have included a slide here, but something that did change from last year to this year that is really great for the donor experience is that we have a fully anonymous option, meaning when donors check out this year, they're able to not just hide their name or hide their amount publicly, they are actually truly able to donate as an anonymous donor. And while you might be saying, well, then we don't have their donation data, that's okay. They will show back up again. What you want is to make sure that they are able to give and they are able to give comfortably. And that is tied to that anonymous option. So for some of you, that may be a talking point for folks that are maybe a little bit more nervous to participate online or give for Colorado Gives Day. A couple more slides here on some data. And again, just some ideas for how you might leverage what you have in front of you to make better decisions for Colorado Gives Day this year. You might be looking at total raised versus goal, of course, number of donors and average gift size. You may be, like I mentioned, thinking about the timing of donations. You also want to be tracking and seeing, well, who donated when I had my matching grant live last year? You can run matching grant reports in Colorado Gives. Or who was really interested in that 3 p.m. power hour last year? I'm definitely going to target them this year. You can be tracking donor engagement trends. Of course, sharing shout outs. Thank you to our 100th donor to build that excitement in real time. But the bottom line is your data is living and it's living and wanting to celebrate. It's wanting to have you communicate it and it's wanting to have you actively talk about the incredible progress that your nonprofit is making. I wanted to pause here. What are you guys thinking about or making sure you're focusing on data-wise for Colorado Gives Day? If you're able to, I'd love for you to put it in chat just to share some ideas. You don't need to share the secret sauce, but would love to know what you guys are thinking about, what kind of data you're hoping to measure or capture. Oh, I see Meg at 9:37. She had a power outage. Meg, I feel you so much on that. I'm so glad you're here. Abby says percent of new donors acquired. Yes, Megan, using data to segment messaging to donors. That's a big one. If you can put those donors into buckets, then you can talk to them in a more personal and specific way. And that by default is going to make them more connected to your messaging, to your impact, and of course, get them to give. All right, let us head to an org page because I just said a lot of information. We will head to the nonprofit page, and let me make it a little bit bigger for everybody. This is an example nonprofit page, so it isn't live or active, but it does give us the opportunity to look through it without exposing any personal data. So this is your organization page. I'm signed in as an admin. I can navigate to a lot of places by clicking on my name in the upper right-hand corner. By default, you're going to land in the overview section. That's when you log in, that's always where you're going to land on your organization page. We have some wonderful Tuesday tips and announcements that are happening in this sidebar, which I'm sure by default everybody just closes, but it actually has some great information in it. The overview section is here for many reasons, but the most important is these notifications up here at the top. If you see donations disabled, your organization setup is complete, or that registration is now open, meaning you're not registered for Colorado Gives Day yet, those are indications that you have to take action. The other thing I'll point out on this page specifically is that you can very quickly take a look at your effective fee rate. So how much you raised in the last 12 months and how much is actually getting retained to pay for those transaction fees, those unavoidable transaction fees. And I'm going to guarantee you it's going to be way lower than any other of your transaction platforms that you're leveraging year round, which is exciting. That's why folks love Colorado Gives Day and leverage the platform. So lots of great things in the overview section, but the majority of the updates is happening on the organization page. This is your public-facing organization page. You can see at the top, this is the organization page URL, which many people are sticking into their emails. So people land on this page and then choose to either donate or fundraise. I mentioned in my slides that there is a more direct way to send people, and that is by going to checkout, then to donation form. And up here at the top, you'll see that you have a copy of the direct link to donate. Okay, and that is going to lead people directly to a donation form. So they get to skip the organization page. So that one's a little hidden. I want to make sure everybody knows that for marketing purposes. If we head back to the organization page, you'll see at the top, there's a toggle on and off for edit mode, so you can see what it looks like to other folks. You should be updating your banner image. You should be updating your logo. People, eye contact is always better rather than a scene or some abstract image. You have the ability to update the title, the public-facing title of your organization page. Let's head down here a little further. You see this palette here. This is the complementary color. So you can see we chose orange just as an example. So these are all ways to just subtly make some updates to your page so it looks and feels like your organization. Here is the About section. So this is the main portion of text that your donor is going to read before they act. It also influences the search results. And so we do not want a bunch of testimonials. So I go into great detail in webinar 2 about how you can make some copy updates, of course, make it more you-focused and impact-focused, so removing the nonprofit. But that is the About section, and that's what you should be actively updating. As we head further down the page, you have a place where you can put a succinct mission. And then there is also often a background statement. And so I was encouraging you guys not to expand it, but instead to hide it. You have all year to tell them about your background and your history after they make that donation. So that's my personal take on putting more content versus less on an organization page. I'm going to head down further, and we're going to see the organization data section, where you're adding summary information, detailing your programs. You can add information about your financials for transparency. It's very easy. If you need any documents, you don't have to, but you can upload for transparency 990s or annual reports. And then last but certainly not least, there's the ability for you to set up Colorado state tax credits on your organization page as a visual tool. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely check it out. And I believe I have the FAQ linked in here in a couple of slides. All right, I'm going to pause here. Katie, any specific organization page or other questions from that first bit of content?
I have many organization page questions.
Great.
Um, so to start, would you say it's better to use a link that goes to the embedded form on their website or their organization page on Colorado Gives / Mighty Cause?
Yeah, good question. So the way that I categorize it is the easiest way is the organization page link, right? You can grab it, no fancy stuff, stick it in your emails and marketing. So that's kind of the easiest way. The second best way, or the better way, in my opinion, is to go to checkout, donation form, and copy that direct link to donate. The third option, which is what you guys mentioned, is going to, and let me head to a different page so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to a sample page with the advanced features activated. So when you are considering an embeddable form, meaning you can grab, copy paste that code, put it right on your website, and make sure that donors are staying there and giving for Colorado Gives Day. You'd be heading to settings, and you can subscribe to the embeddable form for 19 bucks. You can end that monthly subscription at any time. And that allows you to embed that form on your website. Now, the reason I say that one last is because there's a subscription fee. There's 19 bucks. So you do not have to use the embeddable form. I can, well, I can't guarantee anything, but I can say that there is more activity and better conversion if you're using the form, the embeddable form, versus one of the links that go back to a Colorado Gives page. So again, when you're considering sharing links, it could be the URL to your organization page. That's great. It could be in the checkout area, the copy the direct link to donate, or you could head to settings and then to plan management. And that is where you could, and a lot of people do it just for this time frame, they use the embeddable form on their website. And that, of course, keeps donors on your website, associated with your brand. This is where they like and should be going year round. And so that just gives you a leg up in collecting donations and having that streamlined donation experience. Oh gosh, and do we have webinars on this? And do we have FAQs on this? So if anybody's curious about the embeddable form, we can talk more about that.
Another question we have is the organization page on Colorado Gives has more payment options than the embeddable form. So is it best practice to point links directly to the Colorado Gives page?
Good point. Thank you for asking. So the embeddable form does not offer IRA, donor advised fund, and stock or wire gifts. Only your Colorado Gives form. So if I head here and I go to your donation form, this is the form that allows you to have credit card, bank account, PayPal, Apple Pay, Google Pay, as well as IRA, donor advised fund. The embeddable form, we couldn't stick the IRA and the donor advised fund custom stuff in the form. So you're correct in that if you want someone to donate with an IRA, a donor advised fund, or wire, you should be sending them to copy the direct link to donate. So your organization page donation form. If that's not a worry for you and you don't have IRA or donor advised fund donors, send everybody to the embeddable form because it still has credit card. It offers bank account as long as you're donating $50 or more. Google Pay, Apple Pay on mobile. So the thing that you're missing between the embeddable form and your normal form on Colorado Gives is just those IRA, donor advised fund, and wire gifts. That's a great question. Thank you.
And then a quick clarification
Sure.
is if your org is searchable, does that mean it's live?
Yes, it does. So you wouldn't be able to see your organization page if it wasn't able to be donated to. Good, great question.
And another quick one is how can they make sure to check that their organization has everything that they need to be a part of Colorado Gives Day 2025?
Good question. So first quick point of reference, overview section once you're logged in and you're looking for any of these notifications, because that means you need to take action. The other place you're taking a peek at is your to-do list. And so you can drop down your to-do list, and I can see on this example page, whoops, I don't have my EFT set up. Whoops, I don't have my state compliance set up. Okay, and it takes me right there. So it's pretty easy to make sure that your page is live. And just a reminder again, if you're not sure, press the donate button, because that will tell you if you're able to accept donations or not.
And then any page updates that they make between November 1st and December 1st, will they be made live immediately or will those only show up after December 9th?
Great question. So everything is immediate now. There are no scheduled donations. Everything happens in real time. And if you need to make updates to your page, if you need to make updates to your form, your embeddable forms, you can do that anytime you want, and it happens in real time. And so I know on the past platform prior to 2022, there were parameters, had to update during this time period or this time period. This platform, Mighty Cause, makes it much easier for you to hop in here and use it year round and for Colorado Gives Day. So update that information anytime. Of course, we'd like you to do it before November 1st.
And then I have several questions about making a new campaign. So I'll kind of read you all of these questions and they're all kind of related. So I have questions about when do they make their fundraiser live? And then also, should we clear out and start a brand new goal? Do you recommend setting up a unique campaign for Colorado Gives Day? And can we copy last year's campaigns or should we clear out and start over?
These are all amazing questions. So first, I'll start on the organization page. You do not need to create a special fundraiser page. This is where all your donations are flowing to at the end of the day. Your EIN, your organization page. Now, I see a lot of organizations creating a fundraiser, especially for Colorado Gives Day. There is no wrong way to do this. That just gives them a little more specificity. So this organization page should be evergreen. It should be talking about your organization, so people can land on it, of course, for Colorado Gives Day, but year round. Some folks do create a fundraiser page, call it Colorado Gives 2025, Colorado Gives Day 2025, and specifically point donors to that fundraiser page. From my perception, unless there's a specific reason, like you want your board members involved, so you're creating a fundraiser page for your board members or for your volunteers, sometimes I don't think it makes sense to create that extra Colorado Gives Day fundraiser page unless it's for $40,000 for a soup kitchen, unless it's specific to something that you're raising funds for. And the reason I say that is you have metrics here. So make sure that you're hopping into your organization page and you're saying, okay, amount raised, number of donations or donors. I want this to calculate from November 1st. Here we go. And I want it to count from, of course, 12 a.m. So that allows you to reset your organization page. Now that is the organization page, and that is my advice on if you need to create a special fundraiser for your Colorado Gives Day campaign. My default answer is probably not, but there may be a reason why you want to. The other questions you had mentioned, Katie, were more around reusing pages. So this page is evergreen. If you want to see any other pages connected to you, any fundraiser pages, you're heading to campaigns. When you head to campaigns, just as you see here, you can see anybody else that's connected to you. You as an admin, you can toggle off discoverability if it's an old page. Maybe it's just something you did in 2023 and you don't want it to muddy up your search and you don't want people to find it. You would toggle off discoverability. What I wouldn't do is delete old pages. You don't need to. Keep them. Just toggle off that discoverability. Now, the other thing I would say is these pages can be reused year over year. So you don't have to recreate, the board page for Mr. So-and-so every year. He can reuse that page over and over again and refresh the content. So we don't want you to reinvent the wheel. We want you to be able to refresh both your organization page and if you're using fundraiser pages instead of creating new ones. So hopefully that helps.
My next set of questions are all kind of tutorial based. So again, I'll kind of read them all to
Sure.
you. And so one is optimal size for the main banner image. People want to see an example of a great about page. And people also
Mhm.
want to see a tutorial about adding categories to their page and changing the story page to an org page.
Well, you can't change a story page to an org page. So if you have questions on that, you should be connecting with support. Your org page is up and accessible year round if you are accepting donations. And Katie, tell me again what was kind of the thought process there, the other questions?
The others were about adding categories to their
Oh yeah.
page for
Mhm.
discoverability. You'd love to see a great about page, and then
Mhm.
optimal banner size.
Great. So we do go into great detail in webinar 2 and show you some examples of about pages. So definitely check that out because we're talking about copy and what you should change and how it makes the donor feel. So that would be in webinar 2. When we're heading to the general settings, you can update logos and theme color. You can adjust your subdomain. You can customize your URL. If for some reason you needed to toggle off discoverability on your organization page, that is possible. And then here's where you're updating your alternate search names. Okay, so if you're going by a DBA or someone shortens your name, that's how folks know you, you should be updating this section. Search tags are also important, right? So you won't have any control over organization size. We populate that for you, but you can choose categories and you can update and add a child care tax credit. So all of these things allow you to be more discoverable. And I'll show you what that looks like. We head to the search and I go all page types. This is what the donors are engaging with during Colorado Gives Day. They can see you by location, so make sure your location's updated, and that's can be updated in the settings. They can by category, and these are directly following the IRS subcategories of nonprofits. Organization size, so that is set by your IRS reported revenue or your Secretary of State revenue reported. Folks can find people and just donate to organizations who have tax credits set up. And of course, not to be forgotten, organizations with matching funds. This is a big one that's used because if I'm going to donate $100, why not donate to an organization with a match? And so this really quickly bubbles up your organization in some different ways. All right, just for time's sake, I'm going to keep going, but those were amazing questions. Thank you guys. Okay, so we've been talking a lot in these past couple webinars about what to do, what actions to take, what templates to take, but we haven't yet discussed the thank yous. And so I wanted to make sure you knew first and foremost that this year we have included thank you messaging in our toolkit. So that was something that we included new this year because we knew you needed it. Some reminders on different ways you should be thanking donors. We've talked about this, but if it's new to you, you might consider before kicking off your campaign, sending a pre-thank you email, warming donors up, acknowledging them for showing up in the past, and not asking them to give. No actions, just sharing some love. We're thankful for everyone who makes Colorado Gives Day possible. Your support powers our mission. So I do in some of our other webinar slide decks have some examples of some pre-thank you emails that you might leverage. Of course, and we talk about this a lot in the prizes webinar, but sending those real-time thank yous during the campaign to celebrate donors, social shout outs, If you can do short videos, even if they're casual and done with your iPhone, that is what's going to draw people in. That's what I'm watching. I'm watching people on their iPhone on social. So don't be afraid to make it real and tangible what you're putting out there. And of course, texts and phone calls too, to make donors feel good. And hopefully they'll show up again and donate more. So that recognition, that's creating the momentum. Um, and we do go over in a little bit more detail in our prizes webinar, some different messaging. So we just hit our halfway goal. Thank you, community. And so keeping those milestones present in people's minds is going to encourage them to give. Post-campaign, like I mentioned, we have that post-event material for you to say thank you. We, as Colorado Gives Foundation, send out one collective thank you email, and that usually happens the day after Colorado Gives Day. That does not mean you shouldn't be sending your own, because it's most important that it comes from you. I can't tell you how many donors I've heard, well, I donated last year on Colorado Gives Day, but I didn't hear anything back. So it's either that, or they're getting so much mail from you and they just don't know how to stop the mail from coming. So it's a really, it's a balance of making sure that you're thanking people, but also respecting their boundaries and how they want to be communicated with. Wanted to give a shout out to these two webinars because they are fantastic and they are focused on donor psychology. So we go into great detail about the effectiveness and the ways you can thank donors for any of your campaigns, but of course, specifically for Colorado Gives Day. And then growing donor support is tactics and strategies, easy, subtle tactics and strategies that make a huge difference at the bottom line. And of course, that relationship with your donor. So I know everything's crazy. You're on this webinar today. I'm asking you to watch more webinars. But if this is something that you really want to focus on this year, or you felt you fell short on last year, definitely take a look at these webinars. This is something I think we all forget to do. And again, it's okay, whew, the event's over, we did it, we raised our goal, thank goodness. But what is that further impact report? You're saying thank you. You have all of the ability to follow up again or follow up in the next couple weeks. Because of you, these things happen. Will you show up again for us for year-end giving? So there's ways to tie that momentum of Colorado Gives Day into end of year and into your other campaigns with those thank yous. So it's not the last step, and it shouldn't be, a step that you think of afterwards. It should be part of your preparation and planning, because ultimately, if you get a new donor and they donate once, but they don't come back, it's a lot of potential wasted. And so we want you to have the best relationships with your donors possible. All right. Now, some of you have all of your strategies set. You know what you're changing or adjusting last year to this year. And some of you are totally new to the campaign. And so if you are at all concerned or worried about how much email communications you should be sending, these are the webinars for you. And again, I know I'm flashing more webinars at you, but everybody has different needs and levels of support. And so if you need an email plan for Colorado Gives Day or end of year, please check out these webinars because they spell it out. They make it really easy and actionable for you. All right, and just a quick peek here. Let's take a look at the October Outlook and checklist. So even though we are in it, we are almost done with it. I can't believe it, but there are still some great things in the October Outlook and checklist. So take a peek at that side checklist there. It's a lot of what we talked about, but it gives you some momentum for when you might be doing certain actions. And so this hopefully is a guide. And then here, if you check out down here on my birthday, we are doing the public PR announcement of Colorado Gives Day to start that momentum off. So that's happening through our media partners. And then of course, merch store closes and Halloween. November, getting busier. We still have an expanded checklist here as you're doing more and more activities and Colorado Gives Day kicks off. We want to make sure that you know when we are sending emails and when you might want to send emails. So you'll be able to see here these blue emails, they match with templates in the toolkit. So you might send your early giving email on Monday, the 3rd. Down here, we are going to be talking about our activations for Giving Tuesday. We have an email that we send to donors reminding them to give prior to Thanksgiving. And so you can see both our cadence and then plan out your cadence for emails. And then last but certainly not least, lots of stuff going on during December. And so here, this is really just mapping out the trivia week, which I hope everybody takes advantage of. It's so fun. And it's a way to include your donors in prizes without necessarily having them have to make a donation. We've got some thank you email suggestions. We have some day before email suggestions for you. Thank you emails on the 10th, donation disbursements. So long story short, this is a great visual reference for everything you've got going on for Colorado Gives Day and everything that's happening or that we're pushing out. All right, so I'm going to mention 3 more things here, and then we're going to leave time for all of these questions because I know we've got a lot of great ones. So we talked about the embeddable form a bit and where you can access it on your organization page. Again, it's an optional form. We would love for everybody to leverage it for Colorado Gives Day. And the reason we would love that is because it keeps people on your website. That is the best way for donors to engage with you. A smooth, slick donation form on your website, but it is optional. And I showed you different URLs for free that you can be sharing with your to encourage donations. But if you need support or additional information on the embeddable forms, let's talk. Reach out to support, or you can leverage these resources to get started. Matching grants. It's been really exciting over the past couple weeks to see everybody starting to schedule and set up their matches on the platform. Makes me feel like Colorado Gives Day is just around the corner. But I wanted to remind everybody, if you haven't yet, be establishing a match. So thinking about who in your network, is it a business, a major donor, a board member? Maybe the board members are pooling their funds for a match. How can you identify match funds that you can then set up on Colorado Gives? And of course, it's a visual tool, so you don't have to run that money through the system. Maybe you got $10,000 from your pooled board donations. Great, use that as a match. But that $10,000 doesn't have to go through Colorado Gives. Another reminder, and I showed you there in our last demo, that this is a visual tool and it also helps track and do reporting on any of the matches. But it also is going to get you bubbled up. So more visibility if you have a match set up on your page during this time of Colorado Gives Day. And we know matches work across the board, hands down. One, if not the most powerful way for you to drive more donations and donor satisfaction. So if you can, set up a match, schedule multiple. Again, it's a free, easy visual tool on Colorado Gives, but we know it makes a difference. And then last thing here, and we touched on this a little bit with the fundraiser pages versus the organization page. So yes, coloradogives.org is a donation platform, but it is also a peer-to-peer fundraising platform. And if you haven't heard of peer-to-peer fundraising before, it's truly just the idea that I'm a volunteer. I can't give you $100, but I can talk about how amazing it is to be your volunteer. And so with that, we give you the ability to have someone easily connect a fundraiser page to your organization and talk about why they love you during Colorado Gives Day with their friends and family. And so the idea is, instead of one donation, you're empowering an individual to bring in their friends and family and network. And that's, of course, going to drive new donations for your organization. Folks you might be engaging, of course, are board members. They might be creating peer-to-peer fundraiser pages. Staff and volunteers, they're always great because they kind of have to listen to you if you ask them to create a page. And then, of course, anybody going through your programs or alumni, those alumni, they definitely have a story to tell. You helped them with whatever it is you helped them with, and look where they are now. Friends and family, and I think of this, I mean, it could be applied to a lot of things, but I think of schools or, youth. How do we get the friends and family involved without, again, asking the parent to pay for this or purchase this candy bar? Well, this is a great way. They don't have to give, they just have to create that fundraiser page. I've been hearing this year a lot of folks are kind of leaving out their event attendees, not inviting them to the table for Colorado Gives Day. And I think that's maybe because they feel it would be like mixed messages or, nah, he gave a big donation during the event in October, so I don't want to ask again. These people are charitable. They're showing up to your event because they care about charity. They definitely know about Colorado Gives Day. So if you are not asking your event attendees or other pockets of folks in your network to step up to the table, someone else is going to be asking them for Colorado Gives Day. Businesses. So we don't touch on it too much here, but I go into great detail in our prizes webinar. Businesses have special pages called group giving pages that they can use with their employees and network to fundraise for one or multiple nonprofits. And so that might be a great place to focus if you have a really strong relationship with some business partners. And then, of course, other people who can amplify, who can tell a story, who has a great network, who owns a company that can help amplify what you're already doing, what you're already saying, and what you're already putting out there. And I thought I'd just give you a visual, although we did see it in that demo, but on the nonprofit page, there's many ways that people can set up fundraisers connected to your organization. But the most straightforward is by clicking that fundraise button on your organization page. And you can also right click and include that create fundraiser button in your emails and in your social media. So just wanted to flash that before you as a reminder. It's not as hard as it sounds to encourage people to create fundraisers. Okay, now let me hop off here and I'm gonna head back to an organization page. And so from here, I just wanna, again, quickly remind you where you're navigating for different things. And so a lot is happening in the fundraising tools area. This is where you're managing campaigns. It's where you can access an embeddable widget or an embeddable form. This is where you're setting up matches. So I just want to give you a quick peek so you can see any upcoming matches here that you've already scheduled or any past matches. Maybe you want to download a report from last year and say, who was even involved in our match last year? Who was inspired by that? To create a new match, press create in that upper right-hand corner, and then you're outlining the simple details of the match value, the name of the the matching sponsor, excuse me. You can hide that if they want to be anonymous. You might want a nice visual and additional details about the match. And then once you get down here, this is really just scheduling it. Do you want it to start on Giving Tuesday? Do you want it to start November 1st? Do you want it to only be available for Colorado Gives Day to drive all the excitement on December 9th? So you can schedule one or multiple matches. All right. And then let's see, what was the other? Oh, and fundraisers. So we already did chat a little bit about fundraisers, but let me head back here. And again, in the campaigns areas where you can access and see any past fundraisers. If you want, as a nonprofit, to be able to see and approve any fundraisers before they go live, you can toggle this on. That means that any admin has to approve a fundraiser page before it goes live. And so while I wouldn't not normally suggest that, there might be some cases where maybe you're working with youth and they might post a questionable fundraiser that you might want to approve before it goes live. So wanted to point that out for you. You can, of course, download reports on your fundraisers and create a new campaign. So we were talking a lot about organization versus fundraiser pages. Your organization is steadfast, it's evergreen, and that's where all of your donations are funneled. You can choose to create individual fundraiser pages for Colorado Gives Day or for something specific that you're raising funds for. Maybe you have an endowment this year or a capital campaign. Great. Talk about that in a fundraiser page. That would be the reason to use it. I would not use a fundraiser page if you're just going to label it Colorado Gives Day 2025. Doesn't really, that's not an effective way to use a fundraiser page. Now, outside of that, we have team and also event pages. So if you have 400 volunteers that you want to fundraise for you, you might want to create a team page so that they can all easily join on a page that's designed for them, similar to the event page. So all of these different page types, you do not have to use them, but you can use them to further empower individuals and to encourage more peer-to-peer fundraising. If we're heading to an organization page, you can copy the link address here, and that you can stick in any of your emails. Maybe you're asking your volunteers to create a fundraiser page this year. And then the last thing I'll say about fundraisers is that you have fundraiser templates on any of these pages. So what that means is that a fundraiser coming to the table and saying, yeah, I do want to create a page. They do not have to create a blank page and try to figure out what to put on it. We can create a template for them. It can have a templated title, fundraising goal, image, some copy, and some copy as well as a longer story or template that you can include in here. And so the idea here is if I'm coming to the table and saying, yeah, I want to fundraise for you, when I click fundraise, I'm not gonna land on a blank fundraiser page. So it's encouraging me and helping me to make that page live and published without having to think of all the content myself. So those are some very basic, easy ways to encourage peer-to-peer fundraising this year. Now, let me take a quick peek. All right, last thing that I will say here is that we have covered a lot, and I know I already said that, but I want you to feel like this is an opportunity for you to understand more about your donors and to drive certain pieces of good for your nonprofit. You do not have to do every single thing that we talked about. You do not have to talk about every single prize. You can, that's why they're there, but they're also there so you can pick and choose as a nonprofit what makes the most sense. And so my ask really is try not to track everything. Try to really narrow down what your strategy is. So maybe it's increasing donor retention by 10% this year. That would be great. That is going to really, in the long term, affect your overall fundraising. Boosting the average gift size. You can see all that in your Colorado Gives reports and in your overview section. Maybe this year you just want to gain 20 new recurring donors. Great. We have a $250,000 recurring gift match to help you towards that goal. Or maybe you are dipping your toe into peer-to-peer fundraising this year. And even if you just have 5 pages, you want those pages to perform well. So you want to raise 25% more this year from those fundraisers. So we don't want you to burn out. We want you to be able to track, to learn, to repeat this, and to grow stronger. So to be able to shift or adjust from November 1st to December 9th if it's not working. That's the beauty of online fundraising, is that you do have that flexibility. So this is not all going to happen all at once, and you're not going to be successful at absolutely everything that is happening on Colorado Gives Day. What we want to make sure is that you're successful at the goals that you're setting by leveraging these prizes and, of course, all the toolkits and resources. Oh, and this is, I forgot I stuck this in here. So if you need examples of that pre-thank you email, I did include them here. This is a 2024 example. We'll keep you updated as the big day approaches. But today, please know you've already helped us take a big step forward. So this is the idea that before you kick off your campaign, before you ask for donations, show them some love. And so we have some examples in here for lapsed donors, major donors, but I really wanted to forward it. So we have about 10 minutes for questions. So let's get as many as possible as we can answer today.
Okie dokie. Okay, first I'm going to start with some questions around prizes and incentives.
Awesome.
Um, can you give a little bit of advice to small nonprofits who are feeling like they can't even consider prizes because they're small?
Okay. Well, first I would say I addressed that in my prizes webinar, um, like the whole time. So it's not about choosing if you should or shouldn't do these prizes. You should do these prizes. They are there for you to talk about, and they are going to increase the number of donations or the amount that is given. They are there to incentivize donors. They are not something to choose if you are or are not going to win. Not everybody's going to win them. There's 5,000 nonprofits on the platform, but every nonprofit, no matter your size, can leverage those prizes and the language in your marketing. And if you can't decide or you don't know which one to focus on, you can always default to the $1 million incentive fund. This is going to boost or amplify all donations happening for Colorado Gives Day. So if you're feeling a little overwhelmed or feeling you have to choose prizes or not to talk about prizes, you can rest on that overarching $1 million incentive fund. But yeah, it's not a choice. This is for you to encourage more donations. So it should definitely be included in what you're talking about. The decision point for you is which one makes the most sense? Do you care about getting recurring monthly givers this year? Maybe that's a 2027 thing. Maybe you're just not ready for that yet. Okay, then probably don't talk about that prize. So it's really just what are your priorities and how can you make those prizes work for you and work in your marketing? Sorry, I was on a little soapbox there, but hopefully that helped.
And then with the incentive fund, is that only for donations on December 9th, or is it anytime between November 1st and December 9th?
Anytime November 1st through December 9th. So that is like the universal messaging, right? If you're not sure what else to say, all donations made on coloradogives.org are boosted or incentivized by the $1 million plus incentive fund. And donors care about it.
And to clarify, that incentive timeframe does end on December 9th, right?
Yep, everything ends as far as incentives, not giving. The platform doesn't shut down, but yes, everything ends, at midnight on December 9th. That is the end of Colorado Gives Day. Good question.
And then one org has board member donations that they're using as matching funds. Is there a way that they can enter that into the website so that people know if their donation is one that's being matched?
Yes. So what we just saw there, and I can go back. You say your board pulled together $10,000. Awesome. So what you would be doing to represent that as a match is under fundraising tools, matching grants. You're going to create maybe board of directors. Maybe you want it to be private, but for boards, you'd want it to be public because you want recognition of how wonderful they are. You're setting up $10,000, board of directors, one-to-one match for Colorado Gives Day 2025. Then, of course, you're scheduling it. And of course, this is going to yell at me if I don't schedule the end date. Oops. Okay. And here we can see that there's 100% match. So that's the one-to-one match aspect. I will do a little bit more clicking so you can see some other options. So you can match up to a maximum dollar amount or a cumulative threshold. So there's some additional parameters. But honestly, guys, if you are setting up a match, do the one-to-one match. Anything else gets so hard to communicate. For example, it's a lot harder to communicate. okay, apply total match when a certain quantity of donations is received. So this is how the match is going to work this year. Nope. Instead, a one-to-one match, if someone gives $100, they are matched $100. And so you would want to toggle and make sure that this percentage is at 100. Now, when we head down here, you have the ability to include or exclude offline donations in this match, which I would choose to exclude. And you can include organization fundraisers. For your board pooling the match funds, this is how you would capture who is getting matched by those funds. You do not, again, need to run that $10,000 through the system, but you can. And so the idea here is that you're setting up a visual tool. It's helping you get discovered more in the search. And of course, in all of your marketing and advertising, it's compelling donors to give for Colorado Gives Day. That's a great question. Thank you.
And then someone was asking if we have a webinar about matching because they're wondering about how to search and secure a company or person who wants to match and how that all works for them.
Yeah, so we do cover it in webinar 2. We don't have a full webinar on matching, but if that's something that you want to discuss, I'm happy to meet with you so we can talk strategy. The long and the short of it with matches, or the most common that you see, is your board of directors pooling funds. You've identified a major donor, either from last year or maybe they already gave this year. Or there's a business entity that is willing to put up those funds. Those are the three main ones. Of course, you can be creative and there can be other matching grant funds from someone else, but those are the three main types we see.
And then
Oh, I guess,
earlier,
I'm sorry, I'm going to say one more thing. And also private foundations. So matching funds might come from a private foundation in order to drive more giving for your campaign. Sorry, Katie, I just occurred to me.
earlier in this webinar, you said if you're having an event to send us the details. So lots of people wanted to know, who do we send our event details to?
Yes, so you would be clicking right here on submit event. And here maybe you probably already put it in here, Katie, sorry. And this is going straight to our marketing team. And so they're reviewing it every day. This is going to give us the basic details. And what we're going to be doing is on a cadence, updating the media partners as we get new events submitted. And they're going to choose to reach out to you if they want to support or highlight your event. So we are pushing all these events out to the media around the state. And they are choosing to connect with you and they will have your information to reach out. So yeah, great opportunity. Will only take you a couple minutes. And you can find that on the nonprofit resources page. If you're not sure or you haven't been to the nonprofit resources page yet, you can always navigate there from the footer. This is where all the nonprofit resources are. We have our help center with all of our FAQs and then a direct way you can contact our support team.
And then I have a few questions about peer-to-peer fundraising.
Okay.
The first one is the peer-to-peer fundraising an extra cost or is that automatically included as an option?
Yeah, automatically included. So the only things that are optional and at a cost are the embeddable form, which is $19 a month. And there's also an advanced features, which has a CRM, it has integrations and a little bit more capabilities, and that's $69 a month. Those are the only two things that you can optionally engage with if you're a nonprofit that needs a little bit more or are using us year round. As far as peer-to-peer fundraisers, make 800 of them. Great. Well, maybe that would be a lot to manage, but what I mean is you can make as many peer-to-peer fundraising pages as you'd like. You can test them out. So don't be scared to create one, to explore, to see if it might work for you because there's no fees tied to that.
And then how do you set
Bye, Tiffany. Sorry, she said this webinar is great.
and then how do you set up the individual peer-to-peer fundraising pages?
Yep.
This was coming from a sports nonprofit and they would like to set up team peer-to-peer fundraising incentives.
Yes. And oh, hi, sports nonprofit. Yes, you guys are perfect for peer-to-peer fundraising, right? Because you don't want to ask them to, after they've bought equipment or done the fees for the year or the season, you don't want to ask parents to have to do it again. So I'm going to fundraising tools. I'm going to campaigns. I'm logged in as an admin on an organization page. And then you can click this button. I like clicking this one. It's the same experience. I know it's silly, but if you click this plus sign at the top here, it's going to allow you to create an individual fundraiser page. So one fundraiser, a team page, which it sounds like that's what you want. You want multiple people to create fundraisers and them all to be consolidated under that team page. So I would click start a team page. And then if you're having an event, or you want to display teams and fundraisers, or just want a really nice looking donation page, the event pages are highly customizable as well. So my suggestion would be head to campaigns, start a team, and that's going to easily create that team for you so you can get started.
And then I've got a couple of questions about the Good for Business challenge. One person was just like, what is it? How does it work? And then another person wanted to know, is it really sponsored by Delta Dental or is that just an example? I've
Oh,
changed that to our organization and I'm not sure if I should have. What is Delta Dental giving for that challenge?
yeah, yes, it is real. Delta Dental is a wonderful partner, and they have been supporting the Good for Business Challenge. This is their third year. Um, and so if I'm just navigating at the top here, ways to give, and then I can go to business giving. And then I also want to remind you guys that it's all on the nonprofit resources page as well. So if you're like, what is this business challenge? Here it is. You can explore the toolkit. So we give you guys a toolkit so you can come up to businesses and say, hey, would you participate and help me fundraise? And then you can go directly to the Good for Business challenge page. So let's check that out. Okay. So when you head to this page, ideally you're sending the business to this page. And that's because we are doing a lot of the hand holding, so you guys don't have to for Colorado Gives Day. And so we have a business challenge that is sponsored by Delta Dental with the ability for these businesses to win an extra $1,000 for the nonprofits they're supporting. And so the incentive this year is there's $25,000 gifts that these businesses can win. If it's a new business participating this year, amazing. We have the step-by-step. The idea here is that they are creating that group giving page. So let me just show you what it looks like. I am logged in, so it's not asking me to log in. I'm hitting continue after I've put my business name in. I'm landing on the page. Super simple. Now, the business, along with our help, some automated emails, as well as some hand-holding from our team, we support each of these businesses that are participating. So we make sure their page is up, that their questions are answered, and that they have resources specific to fundraising. So I just want to let you know, we're not just like letting them out into the wild. We are supporting all of these businesses that are participating. But once they create this group giving page, they are enrolled to get automated reminders to update their page. And then, of course, we're connecting with them to make sure they're supported and ready for participating. The bonus here, or the big reason why you would want to ask a business to give, is because they can feature one or multiple nonprofits. And so it's a really good deal for these businesses. They get out of having to write one nonprofit or multiple nonprofit checks, and they get to use their employee network. So let me take a quick look at what these pages look like last year. I'll stick this in the chat too. So this is last year's leaderboards, and we wanted to keep them up so you could see all the great things that are happening. If we head to this small business page, you can see that it's set up and that this particular business is supporting these wonderful organizations. Sorry, my internet's being slow. Everybody stick with me. So rule for Foxes, $45,000 raised. So they were spreading this page out to their employees, to their network, on their social, and saying, hey, we're a charitable business. Look at all of these amazing nonprofits we work with that we are supporting for Colorado Gives. And so they can, and of course, if they raise $1,000, they have the opportunity to win $1,000. And so this is a great way, without, again, having that business have to write you a check, for them to participate, for them to look really generous and charitable, and to lift up one or multiple nonprofits. So that, in essence, is the business challenge. Long and the short of it is, we want to support these businesses so you don't have to be hand-holding them, which we do. And you guys have in your toolkit business challenge resources, and then the businesses also get resources as well. All right, we've gone over, but it's our last one. Are there any other really important questions that we can answer today? And if not, you know where I am, and happy to connect with you or work with you through support.
A lot of people have brought up a few times Canva resources. Do you have a quick place where they can go to see those?
Definitely. Okay. Thank you. So when we are talking Canva, we are going to the Nonprofit Toolkit. If we are heading down, you can see those logos, key messaging. These are new, donor engagement resources. You can download the calendar and checklist, but if we head here, this is the social media templates. And so this is primarily where we're leveraging Canva. And so what we have here, I think I'm blind, but I do believe this text is a little bit small, but you can access a step-by-step guide. So we have a full Canvas tutorial for you that goes through what buttons to click so you can customize the different images available. And the other thing we added here, because we noticed that a lot of nonprofits weren't aware of this, you can get a Canva Pro account for free. You just have to fill out a short form. So definitely do that, because it's just going to make it easier, gives you access to more of what's on Canva. So yes, if you have more questions about Canva, I would start first with the tutorial. And from there, if you need more support, that's what we're here for. Denise says, is there a different link to set up a Good for Business challenge, or where do we point people? Thank you. And apologies if I wasn't super clear. We are going to the business giving page, which you can get to from the nonprofit resources. And then you're asking the business to create a group giving page. That is the only action that they need to take. That basically essentially registers them for the business challenge. And then we are working with them. Hopefully that helps.
Oh, and then you can't, so yes.
Karen's like, oh, where are the resources? I know, I'm hopping around page to page. So if I go back to nonprofit resources, this is the page where everything's at, and I go to the toolkit, you can do some quick links up here. I'm going to quick link to the social media templates, because that's where we have the Canva resources. And you can see the Canva tutorial, as well as the form that allows you to get Canva Pro for free. Great questions. Oh my gosh, you guys know I could stay here for another 3 hours and talk to you. I love this so much. I love you guys. I'm so happy and excited for Colorado Gives Day. You know where we're at. If you need help, please reach out. You don't wait, because that's what we're here for. So thank you. Have a wonderful week, and we will talk to you and see you soon. See you on November 3rd, right? Bye, everybody.